The anime begins with a girl named Midori, who finds herself buried as the endless tasks pile up, leaving her drained and longing for a break. The fatigue is visible in her eyes and the way she drags her feet, a clear sign of her struggle. After another grueling day, Midori reaches her home. But as she steps in, tired and weary, she collapses, her body unable to carry the weight of her exhaustion anymore. In this moment of helplessness, a crushing realization hits her: she might be facing her end. Tears stream down her face, not just from physical pain but from the sorrow of leaving the world without a chance to bid farewell to her loved ones, especially her parents. As she lies there, something extraordinary happens. Midori feels her soul leaving her body, a sensation both eerie and serene. Amidst this surreal experience, she encounters a divine presence, God. This encounter turns her world upside down. God, with a mysterious smile, presents her with a challenge. He reveals a world called Aztalan. It is a world torn apart by the cruelties of humans against other species. Midori's task is to judge humanity itself, to decide whether it deserved to continue existing. The weight of this responsibility terrifies Midori. The idea of making such a monumental decision is too much for her. She tries to refuse, but God understands her fears and offers her a unique power: the ability to be reborn with a special connection to animals. This intrigues Midori, a girl who has always found solace in the company of animals, particularly fond of her parents' cat and all things fluffy. Seeing her love for animals, God grants her powers related to them. Without waiting for her consent, he reincarnates her. Midori wakes up in a new world, in a grand house, surrounded by a family that looks at her with love and adoration. She has become Nefertima, a little girl in a royal family. 3 years pass, and Nefertima, now affectionately called Nema, grows up in the royal ducal family of Oz. She is the third-born child, living a life far removed from her past struggles. Her days are filled with the love of her brother Ralph and sister Kara, who bring joy to her life with simple gestures like flowers and fireworks. Nema's third birthday is a grand affair, celebrated with enthusiasm by her siblings. But what truly makes her heart full is the presence of numerous animals. She is drawn to them, wanting to feel their soft fur and bask in their unconditional love. As she runs towards her pets, she stumbles, but her loyal dog Dee is there to protect her, a moment that brings relief to her parents and joy to her heart. Surrounded by these creatures, Nema feels like she is in paradise. However, she soon realizes that taking care of so many animals is not as easy as she thought. We then see Nema's mom, who was really worried because she had to go to the royal palace. Her husband wasn't home, and Ralph and Kara were at the academy. This meant there was no one to look after Nema, so her mom decided to take Nema with her to the palace. Before they left, she reminded Nema to behave herself since it was her first time going outside. Nema, super excited about the adventure, promised to be good. On their way to the royal palace, Nema was fascinated by all the new faces and sights. She didn't see any signs of trouble or persecution. When they got there, her mom put a protection spell on Nema and told her to stay put while she went to take care of her royal duties. But Nema, curious and excited, forgot her mom's instructions. She saw a bird and couldn't resist chasing after it. She ran all the way to the palace garden. There, she found not just birds but also squirrels and other animals. They seemed to love Nema, and she was overjoyed playing with them. Suddenly, she noticed a pair of fierce but beautiful eyes watching her from the bushes. All the animals quickly disappeared. Nema turned her attention to these eyes. She realized she was looking at a sky tiger, a rare and majestic creature. Even though she knew she should be careful around such a beast, she was captivated by the sky tiger and couldn't help but feel a connection to it. The sky tiger, a large and majestic animal, licked her, showing that he liked her. Nema felt comfortable with him and enjoyed how fluffy he was, feeling like she was in a whole new world. It was unusual because the sky tiger, usually a fierce beast, let her sit on his back without any fear. Nema took this chance and climbed onto the sky tiger's back. The sky tiger then took her to his master, a prince. The prince was shocked to see a little girl riding his sky tiger, Lars, because Lars usually didn't get close to anyone else. The prince was also worried about Nema, wondering why she trusted the beast so easily. When the prince warned her, Nema looked at him and was momentarily captivated by his looks. However, she got annoyed when he picked her up and held her in his arms. Nema asked him to put her down, but the prince, finding her reactions amusing, put her on his shoulder instead. This made Nema yell and struggle, trying to get down. But then, Lars, the sky tiger, took her from the prince and put her down, which surprised the prince because Lars was never friendly like that before. The prince was impressed by Nema and asked about her parents, thinking she was lost. Nema tried to explain that she wasn't lost, but the prince didn't listen and decided to take her back to her father on Lars' back. When they reached the royal palace and found her father in the king's library, Nema ran to him. Her father was surprised and worried to see her there. The prince then told a story about how he had saved Nema, who was lost in the forest. Nema was annoyed by this lie because she wasn't lost. Her father, relieved, hugged her and thanked the prince for saving his daughter. Nema was shocked to learn that the young man she thought was just a brute was actually a prince. She decided to call him the Brute Prince. When the king himself came and introduced the prince to Nema, she realized the young man was not only a prince but the king's son. Nema used her charm to win over the king, who allowed her to come to the royal palace again. This made her very happy, but she knew she still had to face her mother's anger for not following her instructions. To calm her mother down, Nema mentioned the king's approval for her to visit the palace again. Hearing this, her mother relaxed, and Nema was excited about the prospect of meeting them again. The scene shifts to Nema's mother, who gives Nema some important advice. She tells Nema to be careful around Lars, the holy beast, and explains about the sky tiger, which is a special animal that gets its power from something called elementalism. This is different from humans, who get their power from something called mana. Because Lars is a holy beast, he is usually only friendly with his master. Hearing this makes Nema a bit sad. Nema's mom advises her to only visit the sky tiger when she's alone. Nema seems happy with this idea, but instead of showing she understands, she quickly runs off to play with her dog, Dee. Her mom is a bit worried about how much the animals, including Lars, like being around Nema. Soon after, Nema is taken to the Magnificent Academy, where her older siblings study. Because her father is the Duke, she gets special treatment. To avoid any more trouble, her mother reminds her to stay close and hold her hand. At the academy, her parents are given special seats to watch a competition that is set up by the teachers using magic. Nema is really impressed with the competition ground. The first round of the competition is between her brother Ralph and another competitor. The competitor looks tough, and Nema is a bit scared for her brother. Both Ralph and his competitor have soldiers and magic master wands. When the fight starts, Nema watches nervously. Luckily, Ralph wins, knocking down his rival. Nema is so happy for her brother that she runs to congratulate him. After the excitement, Nema feels the need to go to the restroom. She feels much better after and goes to find her brother again. When she finds him, he's not alone, he's with Tristan, who is bragging about winning the competition. Nema butted into the conversation between her brother and Tristan by calling out to Ralph. Tristan made fun of Ralph, suggesting he could use taking care of his sister as an excuse if he lost the battle. This comment made Nema really angry, and she ended up insulting Tristan. Tristan couldn't handle this and was about to hit her, but Ralph stepped in to protect her before Tristan could do anything. Just then, the prince arrived, and both boys greeted him. The prince scolded Tristan for trying to hit a child and made him apologize, especially since the prince was siding with Nema. The prince thought Nema was scared of Tristan and hiding behind Ralph, but in reality, she was more wary of the prince himself. When the prince mentioned saving Nema in the forest, she quickly denied ever getting lost, grabbing his attention. The prince picked Nema up and decided he wanted her to be his plaything. Nema didn't like this idea, but when the prince offered her access to the royal palace whenever she wanted, she started to consider it. The prince also warned Tristan not to mess with Nema, claiming her as his own, which scared Tristan away. The prince assured Ralph that his father, the king, was fond of Nema and didn't mind her being there. Nema was annoyed with the prince, especially since he seemed pleased with the king's approval. The prince, misunderstanding her, thought she wanted his attention and began to playfully poke her cheeks. Ralph asked the prince to hand Nema over to him because they needed to attend Kara's trial. The prince decided to go along, not wanting to leave Nema alone. As they moved to the trial grounds, the prince suggested they treat him as a student, as he was there to watch the competition. They then focused on Kara, who was about to face a magical challenge involving a fire dragon. The prince learned that Kara had great control over fire, but needed to master water elements, making the task risky. Nema, overhearing this, was worried about the dragon. Seeing her sister's confident smile, she realized Kara wouldn't back down. Suddenly, Nema couldn't bear the thought of the holy dragon being harmed. Acting impulsively, she jumped from the prince's lap and rushed to the trial grounds. Her parents were worried as she leaped from a high wall, but she landed safely due to some magic. As soldiers prepared to confront the fire dragon, Nema stands bravely in front of the dragon, determined to protect it from harm. The dragon can speak and tells Nema that this is no place for a child. Nema tries to reason with the dragon and asks it not to harm anyone else. The dragon doesn't like how it was forcibly summoned by humans and approached with hostility. However, Nema doesn't want anyone to fight, and all she wants is to touch the dragon's scales. To her surprise, the dragon is impressed by the fearless little girl and allows her to pat it. Everyone watches this in disbelief. Nema thought the dragon would feel hot, but it's actually cool and smooth. The dragon enjoys Nema's touch and promises that if she ever needs its help in the future, it will recognize her as its master. Before leaving, the dragon gives Nema a magical orb to stay connected. Nema, to make it easier to carry, transforms the orb into a cute teddy bear with a ribbon. This orb connects their minds, allowing Nema to use the dragon's magic. The dragon introduces itself as Saul and departs. Nema's family, relieved that she's safe, embraces her tightly. Even the prince is concerned and orders the court mages to investigate. He warns Nema's father that other power-hungry individuals in the palace might want her. Then his father says that he might have to eliminate them if they try to use his daughter. Nema is then brought before important people, including the king, to discuss the events involving the fire dragon at the academy. Nema feels a little scared in front of all these important figures. Nema, her father, and mother are questioned about the agreement Nema made with the dragon. While it may not have been a formal pact, Nema can still use the power of the fire dragon. However, she hasn't received the holy blessing of the beast. Nema is confused by this turn, and the king wants to make sure that Nema won't use her power to harm the kingdom. Nema's father, Daeland, solemnly swears that Nema will never do any harm to the kingdom. He promises this on his name. If Nema were to break this vow, her father's life would be in danger. After a thorough investigation, a mage explains that the dragon's appearance wasn't due to an incorrect incantation, it was God's will. Nema believes the same, as God was the one who reincarnated her in this world in the first place. Others present also see it as God's will and believe that holy beasts exist in their land because God has high expectations for their king. They hope the king will bring an era of peace where humans rule. Nema, being smart, detects a pattern of brainwashing with a divine message in their political discussions. This is exactly why God sent her here, but she plans to take her time and enjoy the fluffy moments before making any judgments. Understanding that such conversations can be boring for Nema, the prince suggests that she go and play with the magical beast Lars. Nema is thrilled to finally have the chance to pet and interact with Lars. The prince says something to Lars, who agrees enthusiastically. Lars is excited because there's a lot of meat for him to eat. Nema decides to feed Lars with her own hands, and Lars enjoys being fed this way. After feeding Lars, Nema plays with his paws and enjoys his fluffy fur. She's delighted to play with Lars to her heart's content. While playing, she felt the warmth of the fur and sleeps. Nema looks incredibly cute and adorable even while she's sleeping, especially in the eyes of her father. Everyone watching is equally impressed with her talent. In fact, they want her to form a formal pact with the dragon as soon as possible so they can use the dragon's power in their battles. Many also want to keep her under their watchful eyes for safety. The royal general is worried about Nema's safety and suggests assigning a bodyguard to protect her at all times. Nema's father is grateful for the general's assistance. The church also expresses interest in taking Nema under their guidance, but her father declines, seeing it as nothing more than indoctrination. He strongly opposes the idea of the church being anywhere near her. Despite his objections, the church representative insists on their proposal. However, he backs down when Lars, the magical beast, gazes at him. Still, he questions whether Nema is truly his daughter, claiming that she doesn't resemble her sibling. Nema's mother steps forward and clears up the confusion by revealing that they have taken the true Mana oath. This means that if any of them were unfaithful, they would bear the mark of the fallen. There's no such mark on any of their forehead. The priest still doesn't back down and says that maybe only Nema's father had taken that oath, but Nema's mother says that they have taken their oath in front of King and ask him if he is questioning the king's judgment. The priest gets shut down, but even after this clarification, many people still support the idea of Nema going to the church. They get into an intense debate and finally concludes. Meanwhile, Nema is sleeping, and Lars starts licking her, but he's just trying to wake her up. The meeting concludes, and the king grants Nema permission to move freely within the palace. However, she'll need supervision in certain areas. The prince tells her about the various animals in the palace that she's bound to like. Later, she meets Gwyn Fields from the 2nd Brigade of the Royal Guard. The prince asks Gwyn to take Nema to the dragon stables. Gwyn isn't thrilled about the assignment, and there's some tension when he encounters a rival. Nema didn't care about their rivalry, so she asked them to take her to see the dragons. Dan, who works in the castle, showed Nema his job, and it turns out he takes care of small dragons and some dragons that can't fly. When Nema saw these dragons, she thought they were cute. She realized that Dan really loves his job. Nema wanted to pet the dragons, but she knew it would be hard. So, she tried to use the sunshine orb to make the dragons happy. But this scared all the dragons, and they surrounded Dan and Nema. They ran towards a large dragon, and for some reason, Nema knew his name was Gaizel. This surprised everyone, and even more so when Gaizel said he would play with them for a while. Nema wanted to fly through the air, so she got on Gaizel's back, as if she could fly without anything. While flying, Gaizel told Nema that he could feel the presence of the fiery dragon in her. Nema explained that she had an orb that let her talk to the dragons. Gaizel recognized her as the Maiden of the Dragons and welcomed her. He took her to a beautiful field of flowers where many other dragons were nearby. Nema didn't miss the chance to enjoy the scenery, swim in a lake, and play with the other dragons. During this time, Dan was puzzled about how Nema knew Giselle's name and how she managed to ride him, as he is a proud dragon. But the surprises didn't stop there. When Nema returned, she brought Lars with her. Now they had a little girl with the prince's sacred beast and many dragons taking care of her. Next day, Dan introduces Nema to the Beast Knight stables, home to various rare creatures, where they meet Leston Ogma, the captain of the Beast Knights Legion. Nema sees Leston and thinks of him as a kind guy, and introduces herself. Leston is skeptical about Nema's simplicity, especially after hearing Dan's tales of her ability to tame Giselle, the head of the dragons, who is usually untouchable by others. Eager to learn more about Nema's unique skills, Leston takes them to the magically maintained stable of Horse, introducing Nema to Yuaz, the herd's leader. Despite her attempts, Nema's taming powers don't work on Yuaz, who remains indifferent to her advances. Leston explains Yuaz's usual kindness, but also his occasional stubbornness and aloofness from humans. Nema, after embracing Yuaz, understands and explains that Yuaz, as the herd leader, deliberately keeps strangers at a distance to protect his herd. Realizing this, Leston affectionately hugs Yuaz, apologizing for not recognizing his true intentions earlier, which pleases Nema. For a horseback ride, Dan and Nema choose Hugh, a gentle horse ideal for beginners. As they explore the beast stables, Nema eagerly anticipates interacting with the animals. Along the way, she notices baby giant burrs digging holes, which Leston explains is their way of searching for food when hungry. Suddenly, the playful baby burrs start chasing them, a common occurrence leading to frequent injuries among the Beast Knights. Panicked, Nema calls out for help. In response, Yuaz, fed up with the chaos, lets out a powerful roar that scares the baby burrs away, bringing a sense of relief to the group. Nema is grateful to Yuaz for his assistance, and they continue their adventure towards the beast stables. Once there, Les points out a herd of Wakas, known for their incredible speed and used as messengers in urgent situations. Nema, excited by the idea of speed, eagerly asks to ride a Waka. Les hesitates, explaining that handling a Waka requires skill due to their rapid pace. Nema, however, is persistent, and Les eventually agrees. They approach Yoshu, a Waka, and Nema is fascinated by its smooth skin. Les provides guidance on managing the Waka's speed, cautioning her about gripping too tightly, which would make Yoshu halt abruptly. Nema, thrilled, urges Yoshu to go as fast as possible. The Waka suddenly dashes forward, taking Nema by surprise with its velocity, making it hard for her to breathe. Concerned, Les casts a protective spell on her, allowing Nema to safely experience the Waka's swift movement. Upon completing the ride, Nema resolves not to ride a Waka again, learning from Les that she only experienced about half of its maximum speed. Her reaction amuses Dan, leading to a playful argument between them. During this time, a Greyhawk, used for delivering messages, lands on Les's hand with a letter. Reading it, Les discovers there's trouble back at the stable and they need to return immediately. Nema, still eager to meet more animals, persuades Dan to visit the dragon stables. At the stables, they learn a white moose has escaped, a rare creature in the capital. Les forms a search team, reflecting on his challenging day, including Yua's fondness for Nema and Yoshu's unusual obedience to her commands. The day takes an even more surprising turn when Nema returns riding the white moose, accompanied by Lars. She explains that she found and tamed the moose while visiting Giselle. Les is astounded by her ability to tame the elusive moose and asks her to inform him in future such instances. Realizing Nema's unique gift with animals, Les feels a twinge of envy, wishing he had such a talent. The next day marks Nema's birthday. Her parents express their love and offer to fulfill one of her wishes. Nema's request is simple yet joyful, a trip to the city. On her birthday, Nema excitedly prepares for her first solo trip to the city. Her father, Dayland, initially objects, citing safety concerns, but her mother, Killa, suggests she should be accompanied by Paul and Karna. Arriving at the market, Nema is amazed by its beauty and the variety of shops. Karna explains that the royal capital is divided into 4 areas: the Noble District, Commercial District, Common District, and Industrial District. This design was the vision of the first king, who wanted the city to look splendid from above. Their first stop is at food shops, where Nema is enticed by the delicious-looking food. She asks Karna to teach her how to use the local currency. Karna explains that the smallest units are called rai, with 10 rai equaling 1 copper ingot. Nema then buys 3 chicken leg pieces for 3 copper ingots and shares them with her group, giving 1 each to Karna, Paul, and her pet dog Dee, celebrating her birthday by treating everyone. Next, Nema is drawn to the aroma of something sweet. She discovers a shop selling pepe, a treat made by frying boiled dough. Overjoyed, she buys 20 pepe for the price of a copper ingot, as the shop lady offers a special deal. Nema plans to share them with her family and everyone at home, impressing Karna with her thoughtfulness. Their visit continues with a stop at a tea shop. There, a girl from another table, familiar with the Oss family, starts mocking Nema for her lack of magic and unusual appearance, including her black eyes. Karna, protective of her sister, sternly rebukes the girl, pointing out Nema's special status and acceptance by the royal family, and criticizes the girl for her lack of respect towards a noble family member. Nema returns home, impressed by her sister's strength. As she opens her room's door, she's greeted with a surprise birthday celebration. Everyone she cares about is there, despite their busy lives. Overwhelmed with joy and gratitude, Nema tears up, declaring it the best day of her life. The celebration is filled with joy and gifts. The queen presents her with a beautiful necklace and some potent magic stones. The brute prince arrives, too, and gives her a magical bracelet that promises to protect her from harm. Each guest brings a gift for Nema, making the occasion even more special. Les, the leader of the Beast Knight Legion, surprises her with a rainhawk, a relative of the Greyhawk. He explains his choice. Nema was fascinated by the Greyhawk, but it's too large for her to handle, so he thought a rainhawk would be more suitable. The party leaves Nema elated, feeling it's the best birthday she's ever had. She lovingly names her new rainhawk companion Nox, cherishing the special bond they will share. The next day, Nema is outside, having fun with her bird, Nox. She calls out to him, and he flies right over to land on her arm. That's when Dan comes over and notices what she's doing. He tells Nema that people who are alike stick together and mentions to Lies that he knew Nema was working on training Nox, but is amazed by how much progress she's made. Nema is always doing things that surprise them. Lies then suggests they should try to have Nox fly even further the next day. Nema nods in agreement, but it's clear from her face that she's not really happy. Dan sees this and asks her what's bothering her. Nema admits that she might not be able to hang out as much anymore because she has to spend more time on her study. Then we move to Nema back inside her room, where Margus comes in with some news. She tells Nema that she's brought over the teacher who will be taking over her lessons from now on. The next morning, Nema met her new tutor, Annalie Dessau, who came into her room to say hello. Annalie looked so elegant and proper that Nema thought she was the perfect image of a lady. But as soon as the butler left, Annalie showed her true colors. She told Nema she had to improve how she talks, especially about calling her parents Mama and Papa, which Nema agreed to. However, Nema was shocked when Annalie suddenly hit her with a stick for looking at her the wrong way. Annalie explained that as a member of a noble family, Nema must always control her emotions, no matter what. Just then, the butler came back with tea, and Annalie quickly acted nice again, pretending they were getting along great. That's when Nema's really tough lessons began. Annalie was strict, using the stick to discipline her and trying to teach her how to be a proper lady. She even said she had taught Nema's siblings, who were very talented, but she promised to make Nema just as good. After a long and tiring lesson, Nema went back to her room, exhausted. She couldn't believe Annalie had treated her brother and sister the same way and thought maybe Annalie was just playing a trick on her. Nema considered telling her dad everything, but she knew she had to handle it on her own. She made a promise to herself not to let Annalie defeat her. The day after, when Annalie noticed Nema slouching again, she didn't hesitate to correct her with a stick. But this time, Nema, instead of getting mad, gave her a super cute smile and said she'd be more careful. Annalie was taken aback by the smile, but then Nema let slip that it was just her professional smile from her old job before she came to this life. Even though she managed to handle the situation with a smile, Nema started to wonder how long she could keep this up. After they had dinner, everyone noticed Nema looking really down, which was odd because she usually never leaves anything on her plate. Her mom, Kila, tried to find out what was bothering her, but Nema just ran off to her room without saying anything. Right before Nema could disappear into her room, her brother Ralph caught her with a bit of his magic. He told her she needed to think about what to say to their mom, especially since Kila was really upset, which Nema thought was way scarier than Annalie's mood swings. Just then, their mom asked Nema straight up if Annalie was the reason she's been so sad. Nema explained she wanted to handle her problems by herself because she knew her mom would just make Annalie stop being her tutor if she found out what was happening. Her mom gently told her that Annalie is known for being super proper, and that Nema wouldn't win if she tried to face her the usual way. She advised Nema to really learn from Annalie and to understand her to get through this challenge. Before Nema could respond, Ralph did a magic trick that made all of Nema's bad feelings go away, making her feel a lot lighter. He promised he wouldn't get in the way of her dealing with Annalie, but also promised to help her feel better whenever she was down. After hearing her brother's supportive words, Nema couldn't help but smile and make a promise to herself to win this battle. She also realized just how great her brother was at lifting her spirits. A year passed, and Nema transformed into a well-mannered young lady who knew exactly how to talk, eat, drink, and interact with others like a true noble, impressing Annalie, who acknowledged her noble upbringing close to the royal family. Noticing a change in Annalie's demeanor, something Nema hadn't seen in a year, she got curious about what was on her tutor's mind. She asked Paul for some insight, and received a note explaining that Annalie's family were devoted followers of the Church of Divine Creation. Hinting at a background Nema was skeptical, thinking them to be overly zealous and out of touch with reality. Curious about the church's stance, Nema inquired about the Aku kingdom, which was suffering from a severe drought leading to loss of lives and famine. Despite seeking aid from neighboring nations and churches, only Gash and 2 other countries had offered assistance. Nema questioned why the Church of Divine Creation hadn't offered help, expecting that they would step in during such a crisis. Annalie explained that the church believed the Aku kingdom was being punished by God for siding with the beast people, according to a divine revelation received by their high priest, and therefore, they refused to assist. When Nema asked if Annalie had ever met the beast people to justify such fear, Annalie's disturbing smile revealed a deep-seated terror, indicating that their fearsome reputation made them untouchable, and justified the church's stance in her eyes. This revelation led Nema to understand that Annalie's earlier strictness wasn't just about discipline. It was influenced by her deep-rooted belief. Shocked and angered by Annalie's narrow-mindedness, Nema couldn't hold back her disappointment, calling out Annalie's behavior as unacceptable. In response, Annalie slapped Nema, proving to her that this wasn't about education anymore. It had turned into outright violence, fueled by Annalie's insulted pride. Right after the tense moment, Nema stood up for herself, saying she wanted to be the kind of lady who makes her family proud by helping others, not just someone who stays quiet and looks pretty. She didn't want to disappoint her dad. Annalie tried to shut down the conversation by saying that politics were for the higher-ups, not for them to worry about. But Nema pushed back, wanting to learn how to be a real lady, one who's stylish and knows how to behave around men, but also stays true to herself. She questioned Annalie on how women are supposed to make men happy, but Annalie couldn't handle the question and just ran off. Later, when Dalen noticed Nema's cheek, she asked him not to retaliate against Annalie, wanting to handle the situation on her own terms. Yet, her father still warned Annalie to not repeat her actions. As time passed, Nema turned 5 and learned that her family looked after the northern part of the Gash kingdom. Dalen, her dad, planned a trip there for work and thought it would be a good experience for Nema too. She was excited to go. They used a magic circle to instantly travel to the northern lands. There, Warneskilva, the local lord, greeted them. Nema introduced herself politely, and then dashed off to explore. She was amazed by the snowy city, even more so when the snow turned into a beautiful ice shower. Dalen quickly used his magic to keep her warm, reminding her of the cold weather and the need to dress warmly. He gave her cozy clothes that made her look even cuter. Together, they set off to complete their royal tasks, making the most of their journey and enjoying the adventure along the way. Nema, the adorable girl, was excited not for the work but to meet and play with the unique creatures and monsters of the land. When they got there, the city's mayor greeted them warmly and led them to his office, where they were treated to a delicious meal, making Nema feel a bit shy. But the visit wasn't just for pleasantries. Dalen explained to the mayor that he'd heard about the troubles with monsters in the area, and planned to build outposts for knights to protect the city and keep the monsters at bay. Dalen also had a special task for Nema. He wanted her to use her dragon powers to clear the monsters from the forest. This idea made Nema nervous, as she was afraid using Saul's power might accidentally set the forest on fire. To address her concerns, Dalen suggested asking Saul for advice and to figure out what monsters they were dealing with in the Needlefrost forest. After calling on Saul, they learned that there shouldn't have been monsters there to begin with. However, now there were goblins and some rare frost spiders, but they were supposed to be much farther south. This news made Dalen suspect foul play by humans rather than a natural occurrence of monsters migrating. He decided to handle the situation himself, determined to get to the bottom of it. On the other hand, Nema wondered if perhaps a god's influence was at play. The next day, Nema gets ready to venture into the forest. She carries a rabbit-shaped bag, a special detective amulet, and a knife she received on her birthday, all neatly packed in her rabbit bag. Unexpectedly, Nox arrives and perches on Nema's arm. She informs Nox that he will be their main scout in the forest. With everyone prepared, they gather at the edge of the forest. Their leader cautions them to be careful, emphasizing the potential encounter with monsters. The scene transitions, and they begin entering the forest. The elder, a seasoned hunter in the area for decades, mentions he has never witnessed anything like the current situation. Nema realizes the vastness of the forest, and seeks reassurance from Nox, knowing he's watching over them from above. Eventually, they reach a specific tree and decide to take a break, enjoying lunch prepared by the elder. Suddenly, they hear rustling in the bushes, and a soldier swiftly draws his sword, cutting down a tree. To their surprise, a beautiful rabbit emerges, frightened. The soldier reassures everyone that it's just a rabbit, and encourages them to relax. Hearing about a rabbit, Nema thinks it must have fluffy skin, but when she finds it, she sees that it's hurt. Before she can reach it, the rabbit runs away, making Nema wonder if she lost her powers. The soldier explains that they are not here to kill monsters, but to avoid them because the smell of blood attracts dangerous creatures. Despite this, she runs into the forest to help the little guy, showing she can't leave it alone even if it doesn't like her. Soon, she spots the rabbit again and approaches it. Before she can react, the rabbit jumps on her, hugging her. This makes Nema believe her powers aren't lost, and she still has her taming abilities. She decides to go back to the group to treat the wounded rabbit. Suddenly, someone traps her in a net, and Nema passes out. When she wakes up, she's surrounded by monsters and wonders who they are. Upon closer look, she realizes they're goblins. One goblin comes close, trying to eat the rabbit, but Nema stops him, saying she doesn't want him to eat it. Hearing this, the goblin steps back, unsure of what to do. Nema realizes that they can understand her, and wonder why they all look sad. She asks the goblin what they are going to do with her, but the goblins gets even more confused hearing her. She suddenly thinks that they looks cute, but then realizes that they're monsters. Two goblins take her to a nearby cave where she finds a boy and a girl named Nino, and Pino inside. Nema asks if they were kidnapped like her, and the girl confirms but scolds her for asking silly questions. The boy informs her that goblins also kidnapped some adults kept in other areas. Realizing they need help, Nema asks Saul to use his magic. Saul says he can't attack goblins as they are low-level magic beasts, suggesting she use his magic with her will. To do that, she needs to bring out fire from her mouth. Nema rejects the offer, believing her father and the villagers will rescue her. Just then, Nema's stomach starts growling loudly, revealing that she's hungry. She notices that both the boy and girl are also hungry. Seeing this, she decides to go out and search for some food but gets surprised when she bumps into a goblin. Instead of getting scared, our brave girl asks the goblin if he has some food because they are hungry. The goblin, finding her cute, agrees to her request and gives her a fruit. She finds it bitter but the goblin peels it for her, and this time, Nema finds it sweet. She blushes, saying she hasn't eaten such a sweet fruit before. Wanting more fruits for Nino and Pino, she realizes she doesn't know how to peel them. Then, she uses the knife she got on her birthday to peel the fruit. The goblins watch and learn, becoming friends with Nema in no time. Suddenly, she hears roaring sounds in the cave and finds a hobgoblin there upon reaching. The hobgoblin tells the little ones not to bring human children to the cave, and Nema realizes she can talk to them. She asks why they kidnapped them, and the hobgoblin says it's in their nature. However, they take good care of the lost children, even if they are human. Curious, Nema then asks why they attack humans. The hobgoblin explains that they do it to survive in this world. They were thrown out of their forest by humans, not just goblins but also kobolds, orcs, and ogres. Humans kept pursuing them, and those who couldn't fight or endure the cold perished. Being weak, they kept running and ended up in this forest. Nema realizes it's all humans' fault and decides to tell her father. However, she wonders what to do about the goblins, realizing she can't leave them alone. She asks if they want revenge, but the hobgoblin says they just want to go back to their old way of life, hunting and being hunted alongside animals and monsters, being part of the forest. Nema believes these goblins aren't from this forest, and settling here would upset the ecosystem. She has an idea and whispers it to the hobgoblin. The hobgoblin likes Nema's idea and asks if they can kill the humans. Nema explains that in battle, only the fittest survive, but she can't guarantee the humans' survival. However, she believes it should work out if they form a contract. The hobgoblin agrees to help, but Nema says they need to solve another problem first, her father. If he comes, he might attack the goblins with his power. She tells the hobgoblin they need a plan to make sure her dad will listen to them. Next, she takes some fruit and gives it to Pino and Nino. She shares her idea, explaining they need to get out of the cave for it to work. Nino hesitates, saying goblins are monsters and they shouldn't help them. Nema believes goblins had their reasons and wants to save them. However, she knows her father won't listen if he finds out. She asks for their help, suggesting they act as decoys and pretend to be chased by goblins. Tino hesitates, worried about putting his sister's life in danger. Nema promises to cast a protective spell on her, but Tino remains unsure. Then, Nino steps up, saying she'll help. Despite being younger, she wants to protect the goblins' lives and promises to do everything she can. Nema hugs her, thanking her for the support, and they share a sweet moment. Following the plan, Pino and Nino run through the forest, being chased by the goblins, quickly grabbing the attention of the villagers. Dalen notices and commands his knights to protect the children from the goblins, just as Nema had planned. The children head towards the villagers, and the goblins, upon spotting them, retreat to their cave. The knights follow but encounter the hobgoblin and step back, hesitating to confront it. The hobgoblin assures them that he will release all the children. Before he can say more, Daylan activates his magic and fires at him. Nema shields the hobgoblin with Saul's magic. Seeing this, Daylan realizes it's Saul's magic and calls for Nema to come out. Nema, realizing her plan has failed, pleads with her father not to attack, and surprisingly, he quickly agrees. However, upon reaching the scene, Daylan changes his mind and orders his knights to attack the hobgoblin with their magic. Nema still manages to protect him with Saul's magic. Nema then rushes towards the hobgoblin, defending him and revealing it's not their fault. They were forced out of their forest by humans and had no choice but to end up here. She implores her father to listen, and eventually, Daylan agrees. Just then, Nox arrives, chirping, alerting Nema that danger is on the way. She senses an evil aura from the bushes and, with Saul's power, realizes it's an evil frost spider. Suddenly, the frost spider charges towards them, catching Nema and her father off guard. Daylan asks Nema to join him, and she agrees immediately. However, she shares that the frost spider is hungry and panicking. At that moment, a hobgoblin steps in, declaring he will face the frost spider in battle. Nema tries to interfere, but her father stops her, stating that it's a fight between the strongest and not for her to handle. The frost spider attacks the hobgoblin, who defends with his powerful hands. They exchange punches and kicks, but neither lands a decisive blow. The frost spider attempts a poisonous attack, but the hobgoblin leaps into the sky, delivering a powerful punch to one of her eyes, destroying it. Nema sees this as a fierce battle for survival. After the punch, the frost spider falls unconscious, and the hobgoblin, thinking he won, raises his hand. To his surprise, the frost spider gets up, jumps, and lands on the hobgoblin's body. Nema fears that if the hobgoblin loses, her father will wipe out all the goblins without hesitation for the sake of human safety. Blood appears beneath the frost spider, and the hobgoblin lifts her onto his shoulder. After a moment, he tosses her aside. The hobgoblin thanks Nema, revealing that the protective spell she cast saved him from being crushed by the frost spider. Nema, relieved that the hobgoblin is unharmed, senses something strange. Suddenly, her hands emit green magical energy, and the frost spider asks for her help to protect her child. The spider's offspring emerges from her body, surprising Nema, who realizes the spider was pregnant. The frost spider explains the challenges of finding food for her young due to the disrupted ecosystem caused by goblin. Heartbroken, Nema cries, feeling like a victim of the situation. She places her hand on the frost spider's body and prays for a peaceful afterlife or a new life. Daylan enters and embraces her, but Nema continues to cry, expressing regret for not saving the frost spider out of fear. Despite this, she vows to become stronger to ensure the well-being of every living creature. The hobgoblin wears a sad expression, then suddenly emits light from his body, leaving Nema and the others puzzled. As the light fades, the hobgoblin transforms into a human with elf-like ears and 2 horns on his forehead. Nema, surprised by this transformation, wonders about his identity. Her father explains that he might have evolved. Curious about this development, Nema seeks information from the holy beast Fire Dragon, who clarifies that goblins generally cannot evolve into this state as the highest order of goblin species is the hobgoblin. The Fire Dragon also mentions creatures called Oni and Wazai, possessing human body and horns. Intrigued by the term Oni, Nema questions Saul, who expresses a desire to see the transformed hobgoblin for himself, planning to visit the next day. Observing the hobgoblin's appearance, Nema compares it to flashy individuals in Japan. However, her father intervenes, instructing his knights to cover the hobgoblin's naked body with clothes. Nema takes on the role of teaching the hobgoblin how to wear clothes, expressing gratitude for saving their lives with a hug. Her father, once again, advises her to distance herself from the hobgoblin and go to bed. The baby frost spider approaches Nema, and she asks if it wants to join her. The tiny frost spider hops onto her arm, making Nema think it wants to be her companion. Grateful for the protection and strength provided by the spider's mother, Nema decides to name her Gracia, explaining that Gracia means thank you. Every time she utters Gracia, it symbolizes her gratitude to the frost spider for making her stronger. Suddenly, a white mark appears on Gracia's head, leading Nema to believe she has tamed another formidable creature. The following morning, the hobgoblin, now in a human form, begins clearing the area with the assistance of small goblins. Nema confronts the hobgoblin guy, urging him to release the captured humans. He agrees, fulfilling his promise to her. Soon after, a healing knight arrives with a white rabbit, healed from its injury. Grateful, Nema wishes to bring the rabbit home, but her father, Daylan, advises against it. He explains that keeping wild animals distorts their nature, affecting their ability to fend for themselves. Daylan uses the metaphor of ripples, explaining that taking the rabbit home would create a ripple in the world, influencing other ripples. He emphasizes that even small actions impact the world. and minimizing disturbances leads to a more peaceful world. Despite her initial desire to keep the rabbit, Nema decides to let it go, understanding the potential consequences. Nema then introduces the young frost spider, expressing her intention to bring it home. However, Dalen reacts with horror, clarifying that the frost spider is not an ordinary animal but a monster. The hobgoblin guy educates them on monsters, labeling them as defective creations. Goblins, like him, are considered defective versions of humans, and frost spiders are similarly flawed versions of spiders. He reveals that monsters gain strength by receiving a name from a powerful being, allowing them to use magic and receive blessings. Curious, Nema questions the hobgoblin guy about his name, only to learn that he has none. This revelation leaves her in shock, pondering how he can be so formidable without a name. The hobgoblin guy admits he's jealous of the young frost spider, which already has a name. This revelation prompts Dalen to insist that Nema must take the frost spider home with them. They bid farewell to the goblins and head to the village. In the village, the kidnapped people reunite with their families. Nema asks Nino and Pino about their family, discovering they belong to the Iriga family. Dalen recognizes the family and instructs his knights to escort them safely. Pino expresses gratitude, and Nino, despite her initially intimidating look, invites Nema to visit their home. Nema happily hugs Nino and promises to come. The next day, Saul arrives, and Nema excitedly hugs him, finding his skin perfectly smooth. Saul mentions that the hobgoblin guy has remnants of elemental power, but Nema, absorbed in petting Saul, pays little attention. Saul reminds her that the hobgoblin guy can use elemental powers like the holy beast. The hobgoblin guy confirms this but admits he doesn't know how to use them. At this moment, one of the knights showcases his earth magic by creating a clay doll. Nema requests the hobgoblin guy, now named Shinky, to showcase his elemental powers. Astonishingly, with just his voice, Shinky effortlessly obliterates a clay doll, leaving Nema and others in awe. Intrigued, Nema inquires if Shinky can wield other magical elements. To everyone's surprise, he exhibits mastery over fire, wind, water, and earth elements. Observing Shinky's abilities, Nema believes they will be useful for her plan. However, her father overhears and queries about the plan. Nema reveals she has devised a way for humans and monsters to coexist peacefully, but decides to explain later. Realizing Shinky is a unique creature, she impulsively names him Shinky, leading to her shock when a taming mark appears on his forehead. In a state of disbelief, she wonders why these unusual occurrences keep happening to her, attributing it to the work of God. Apologizing to Shinky for the unexpected situation, he bows to her, expressing loyalty along with the goblins under his command. Grateful for their allegiance, Nema, now blushing, acknowledges Shinky as her master. In the village, Nema tells her father that her earlier thoughts about humans and monsters living together mean that monsters are losing their homes and need new places to live. She suggests putting up a barrier on the uninhabited mountains for these displaced monsters. If the mountain becomes overcrowded, they can turn it into a training ground for adventurers. Nema explains that they can make money by building inns and shops at the mountain's base, and both adventurers and monsters can keep each other in check. Dalen worries that this plan could lead to monsters attacking humans for survival, but Nema says it's all part of the struggle to survive. Dalen agrees, seeing the brilliance of the idea, and decides to consider it further. He then asks Shinky to accompany him on their next inspection, knowing Shinky's elemental powers and extensive monster knowledge could be helpful. Sadly, Shinky reveals he can't leave the nest for too long. He acknowledges Nema as his master and suggests giving a name to the next strongest goblin to protect the nest, allowing him to rest easy. Nema, surprised to be called master, tells Shinky she'd rather be friends and treated like a lady. Shinky agrees and promises to call her my lady from now on. He then brings her to his nest and introduces her to the next strongest goblin, who happens to be a girl. He explains that the girl goblin is his right hand and will become a hobgoblin after a few more hunts. Nema initially thinks the girl goblin will become an ugly hobgoblin but decides she'll still be cute. Nema asks the girl goblin what she likes, and she says she likes flowers. Nema sees some special flowers from the valley called suzerain flowers and happily names the girl goblin Suzuko after them. Another goblin arrives and asks Nema for a name too. Suzuko explains that he's very weak because his last group was destroyed by monsters, and he wants to become stronger to protect his current group. Nema hears this and worries about what to do. She knows the goblin is weak and might not get stronger, but she can't give up on him. She challenges him to hunt down a giant boar by himself, a task that could easily kill him. If he succeeds before they return from their journey, she'll give him a name. Nema thinks this challenge will make him back off, but to her surprise, the goblin smiles and accepts. Impressed by his determination, Nema decides to name him Tauki to make him feel stronger. Tauki blushes and thanks Nema for the name. They set off for the forest, and on the way, Shinky asks Nima about always being surrounded by others. She explains she loves her family and all creatures. Shinky looks sad, mentioning he also had an older brother but he died in a battle against the humans. Nima comforts him, saying he's her friend now, which makes Shinky happy. Then they continue toward the town of Cass in the Parzath proxy. On the journey, Dalen asks Shinky for directions to the town, and Shinky gladly helps. He explains the path they take, including 3 mountains and a rough river. Dalen shows out areas marked in red on a map where monsters are attacking villagers, suggesting the troubles might be caused by humans. He tells Nima he'll leave her with her brother Ralph, who's arriving in the town, while he goes to investigate the monster attacks. Nima is happy to spend time with her brother and they reach the town. Dalen talks with the mayor, but Nima leaves with Shinky to go to the nearby guild. There, they meet Bella, who tells them beast people aren't allowed. Nima, realizing Bella doesn't know Shinky's true identity, assures her they're just visiting and will leave soon. Bella apologizes and shows them around the guild, explaining its rules. She explains that they've set up a cabin for their conversation, using soundproof magic to give them privacy. This way, no one else can hear what they're saying. Before they could start, a man shouting grabs their attention. He's complaining about the mayor stealing money, and nobody is standing up to him. Someone tries to calm him down, saying it's for the good of the nation, but he won't listen. Bella explains he's Heelren, the town chairman, doing his job honestly and opposing the mayor's injustice. Nima realizes the town is suffering, and she wants to know the whole story. She approaches Heelren to find out more. As they argue, Nima tugs on his trousers to get his attention. She asks what's wrong, but Heelren refuses to talk to a kid. Nima gets angry at being called a kid but manages to keep calm. She tells him she has a connection to the Duke and could sort out the matter quickly if he explains everything. Shocked, Heelren listens as Nima reveals her identity as Nefertima Ost, the second daughter of Daland Ost. Nima's introduction surprises everyone, and Heelren apologizes for his earlier behavior. But he hesitates to share the matter with Nima, thinking she's too young to understand. Nima assures him she's on an investigation mission with her father and shouldn't be underestimated. So, he opens up about the mayor's actions, how he's taking money meant for the injured but not giving it to them. He also mentions increasing monster attacks, with more people getting hurt every day. This worries Nima, realizing the mayor is causing problems in the village. Heelren adds that the mayor is also messing with infrastructure, and he has proof against him. Nima realizes they can expose the mayor to her father and get him punished for his crimes. She asks Heelren to share everything with her father, and he agrees, swearing to God. But one thing bothers Nima: why aren't the knights coming to help? It turns out they're busy dealing with kobold robberies, causing chaos. The knights prioritize eliminating the kobolds, leaving other villages like theirs without aid. Hearing this, Nima starts thinking about Fluffy's animal again. She decides to involve their leader in her plan, knowing they must have won because of how organized they are. To tackle this, she instructs Shinky to work with the goblins and win them over to their side. Nima also sends Nox to message her father, asking to meet at the mayor's house. Realizing Nima's next stop is the mayor's house, Belle offers to lead her there. Despite it not being her duty, Nima accepts her help. At night, they head to the mayor's house, where Heelren expresses anger toward his predecessor for not fulfilling their duties honestly. Impressed by his loyalty to his job, Nima approaches her father, who looks extremely serious. He's angry because she left without permission. Nima realizes she made a mistake and apologizes, but she knows apologies alone won't fix the situation. Her father scolds her, worried about her safety. Nima feels like she's let him down. She left without telling him, and she didn't even bring any guards. What if something happens to her and her family? Tears start welling up in her eyes. Before they can fall, her brother Ralph steps in to support her. He can't stand to see his sister cry. Nima remembers how their family always stands by her when she's in trouble, which makes her cry even more. The prince notices and gently wipes her face with a cloth. It's annoying for her, and she feels irritated. But seeing the prince surprises her. How did he get there? The prince had some free time and decided to come play with Nima to cheer her up. He couldn't resist when he heard she was there. Despite Ost's welcome, he isn't pleased with the prince's presence. Nima notices this tension and turns their attention to Heelren. He reveals everything to the Duke, who then goes to confront the mayor. The mayor warmly welcomes the Duke, but his face turns pale when he sees Heelren. He tries to defend himself, but the Duke isn't interested in excuses. The Duke dismisses the mayor and appoints someone else to handle the situation. After this, Nima enjoys spending time with the prince and Ralph. The next day, as Dalen chats with other knights, he expresses gratitude to Duet for his valuable insights and praises his investigative skills. Dalen asks Duet to assist him in their work, but Duet declines, explaining he has nowhere else to go for employment. Upon hearing this, Nema invites Duet and Belle to join their mission, believing they could be helpful. However, Dalen warns them of the risks involved, emphasizing the need for loyalty from everyone, including the prince, to keep the mission secret. Dalen then shares Nema's plan, which the prince finds amusing. Despite his skepticism about gathering monsters in one place to fight humans, he acknowledges Nema's extraordinary powers and sees her potential. As he speaks, Dalen appoints Ralph as the new head of the mission, to which Ralph eagerly agrees. Suddenly, Shinky arrives, and Nema rushes to hug him. Ralph, unsettled by this, demands to know who Shinky is with a menacing glare. Nema reluctantly explains that Shinky used to be a hobgoblin but now serves her as her loyal companion because she tamed him. Dalen explains that Shinky was bound by his true name before he could intervene, and Nema now considers him her protector. Nema then asks Shinky about his encounter with the local goblins. Shinky recounts meeting a group of 16 goblins led by a hobgoblin. Despite attempting to negotiate, Shinky had to defeat them in combat, and now they serve him. Pleased that the goblin situation is resolved, Nema then inquires about the kobolds in Lenny's city. Dalen reveals that there have been reports of kobold attacks in the area. However, the Knight leader informs them that there are not just a few but hundreds of kobolds divided into 5 groups with specific tasks like guarding and scouting. Each group is led by a high-ranking kobold, with an even higher-ranked werewolf overseeing them all. When asked how they obtained this information, the leader explains that unable to handle the powerful monsters, they sought help from the Adventurers Guild, which provided the details. Nema, looking curious, asks about the Adventurers Guild leader's identity. Dalen suspects someone from the guild might be withholding information from the royal capital, as they haven't received any updates. The Knight leader mentions that his friends informed him the regional commander previously worked at the central headquarters before being reassigned here. This revelation piques Nema's interest, leading her to speculate that the regional commander might be behind the information blockage. This revelation not only concerns Nema but also makes Dalen realize he can't trust anyone, fearing they have numerous enemies yet unknown to them. Belle suggests providing intelligence reports from inside the Adventurers Guild, but the prince dismisses the idea, warning that enemies could be found not only within the guild but also across provinces and the kingdom. This revelation dampens Nema's spirits about her plan, but Ralph encourages her, expressing confidence in their father's abilities to outsmart their enemies. Assuring Nema that their father is always one step ahead and will ensure the success of their plan, Nema responds with a cute smile. With this decision, Dalen names their unknown enemies Renohark and dubs their attack on the monsters the Southern Province Incident. He requests the Knights to assist his son in the mission before returning to the royal capital the next day, and the Knights happily agree. Nema feels touched by their support and expresses gratitude, looking forward to working with them. Dalen then advises Nema to rest while the adults discuss matters. Nema happily agrees and wants to nap with Lars, but Ralph stops her, explaining that Lars is Will's holy beast. Nema becomes upset and threatens to nap with Shinky instead, prompting the nerdy boys to take Shinky away. Nema then tries to ride Gracia on Lars' back but hesitates, admitting her fear of him. However, she soon falls in love with him after climbing onto his back. Eventually, Nema also jumps on Lars' back, and they enjoy a peaceful nap together. The following day, as they journey towards Lenny's city, the prince wonders what to name Nema's plan. Ralph suggests a silly name, but the prince rejects it, proposing to call the mission the Shiana Project, as it signifies strength and courage in Celestian. He thanks the god of divine creation for granting Nema amazing powers and feels envious of her favor with the god. However, Nema reassures him that it's not just her who is loved by God, but everyone. These comforting words make the brute prince believe that God loves him too, as evidenced by his royal birth. Meanwhile, in the royal capital, Dalen reveals to his family that Nema is accompanying Ralph and the prince on a secret mission. However, this news doesn't sit well with Karna, who scolds her father for allowing Nema to partake in such a dangerous endeavor at her young age of 5. Though Dalen mentions that 2 holy beasts are with Nema, Killa notices something else in his expression, indicating Nema's hidden agenda. Dalen decides to disclose everything, and Killa expresses joy at her daughter's noble work. She emphasizes that monsters, like humans, are creations of God and deserve to live. She then suggests hiring bodyguards from the Adventurers Guild to protect Karna and help her develop her magical abilities. However, Karna insists on going only with her sister. Killa then shares news of an upcoming visit from their uncle Philip, a respected purple rank adventurer, who will serve as an excellent mentor for Karna. Encouraged by this, Karna pledges to become powerful and aid her family. As they reach Lenny's city, Nema gazes at the forest, her thoughts drifting to kobolds. She expresses her desire to see them immediately. Upon arrival, the leader of the Knights presents the royal family's symbol to the city guards. The guards, recognizing it, swiftly open the gate but inform them that their captain wishes to meet the prince. In response, the brute prince and Ralph leave Nema in the carriage and proceed to meet the captain. Nema, feeling furious, calls upon the wind spirits to aid her and eavesdrops on their conversation. The captain, Dylan Noctis, greets them warmly and introduces himself as the commander of the Parzith District Office and a member of the 1st Legion. He warns them about the danger in the area due to rogue kobolds and urges them to return to the royal capital promptly. However, Ralph informs him that they are here on the orders of Nema's father, Duke Dalen, to monitor monster sightings. Understanding their mission, the captain escorts them to the Proxy Lord. Nema feels delighted, believing that her plan is proceeding smoothly. They meet the Proxy Lord, who appears unwell from 3 sleepless nights. Nema then look at the knight and realize that he is the knight who got demoted. He explains the nightly attacks by kobolds and the inability of their guards to stop them. Seeking aid, he has enlisted support from the Adventurers Guild to assemble a formidable team. When questioned about the squad's arrival, the Proxy Lord mentions they will come after their leader, Red Halada, arrives. The Brute Prince reminisces about knowing Halada when they were Blue Halada, leading Nema to assume they must be formidable. However, she realizes with dread that their strength could mean the obliteration of the kobolds. In a panic, she voices her concerns, prompting Ralph to empathize with her. Prince then requests the Proxy Lord to guide them to the kobolds, believing that Nema's abilities can resolve the situation before Halada's arrival. Nema expresses gratitude to her brother as they make their way to the town. Along the journey, they encounter some children mistreating a lone puppy. Nema reprimands them for their cruelty, but one of the boys justifies it, claiming his father instructed him to harm all dogs, considering them their greatest enemies. Nema explains to the boy that his father might be talking about kobolds, creatures resembling dogs, but harming defenseless beings is disgraceful. The boy reacts angrily and attempts to strike her, but the knights intervene swiftly. Nema then emphasizes that true strength is not meant for bullying, but for defending the vulnerable. She assures them they won't harm anyone and asks for the puppy, which they agree to. She picks up the puppy and realizes that she needs to use her brother healing magic on him. She then asks the boy whom does he want to protect and asks if he wants to protect this children's. The boy, angered by Nema's words, asserts that a noble like her cannot understand their struggles. However, Nema counters, stating that genuine power encompasses more than physical might. She encourages him to pursue honorable strength like the knights, remaining upright and brave. Moved by her words, the boy leaves, declaring his determination to grow strong and protect others, revealing his name before departing. Afterward, Nema requests Ralph to tend to the puppy's injuries, to which he readily agrees. Ralph heals the puppy, and the puppy opens its eyes and instantly loves Nema. Nema asks him about his mother, and it gazes toward the forest, suggesting it may not belong to anyone. Shinki informs Nema that the puppy is a kobold's offspring, leading everyone to realize that even kobolds harbor affection for Nema. Despite the risk of provoking the kobold horde, Nema decides to reunite the cub with its mother, moved by its tearful eyes. She reassures everyone that they have Lars to protect them, believing that this will prevent an immediate attack from the kobolds. Determined to return the cub to its mother, Nema pledges to do everything in her power to ensure its safe reunion with its parent. The following day, while they journey towards the forest to return the kobold's cub, they notice something strange happening in the city. Dewitt points out that the city bell, which usually rings at noon, hasn't sounded yet. He explains that according to the law, the bell should ring every hour, even in emergencies. Dewitt suspects the town may be hiding something and expresses his desire to investigate. Memo understands his concern and gives him permission to proceed, but she warns him to be cautious and return immediately if anything goes wrong. They part ways with the Dewitt group and continue towards the forest to reunite the kobold cub with its mother. Along the way, Nema asks the cub if they're going in the right direction, and the cub confirms enthusiastically. However, it urges them to hurry as it's eager to see its mother. Noticing the cub's impatience, Shinki carries Nema to lighten her load. Ralph and the Brute Prince disapprove of this action and want to punish him. As they press forward, they hear noises from nearby bushes. The knights investigate and discover it's just a small slime. After observing the slime, Nema imagines that its body must feel very squishy, and she wonders what would happen if she were to squeeze it. But before she can act on her curiosity, Shinki informs her that the slime is seeking their assistance. He explains that he can understand most of the monster's language, and the slime is asking for help because its companion has weakened and needs aid. Upon hearing this, Nema feels compelled to help save the slime's comrade's life. She seeks permission from Ralph, who readily agrees. Nema then asks the slime to lead them to its companion. As they follow, they encounter a large slime filled with vibrant colors. Nema is puzzled by its appearance, and one of the knights explains that it's a parent slime capable of producing countless offspring. He clarifies that the colorful objects inside the slime's body are baby slimes, soon to be born. Curious as to why a parent slime is in a cold area, Nema learns that cold regions pose risks to them and their offspring. If the parent slime gives birth here, both she and her babies will be in danger. Concerned, Nema urges the slime not to give birth in this environment, but the slime is unable to comply. The Brute Prince reveals that once slimes become parent slimes, they become parasitic, losing their ability to move of their own accord. Nema ponders what they should do, as she doesn't want the slime to perish in this cold environment. To her surprise, the Brute Prince explains that slimes are unable to reproduce while inside someone's body. Shocked by this revelation, Nema asks the slime if it would harm her if she offered it shelter within her body. The slime assures her that it would, but if she were to attempt to control Shinki's body, it would consume him. Realizing she may be trapped due to her ability to tame creatures, Nema concludes that the slime will only reside within her. However, Shinki reveals that if the slime inhabits her inner organs, she won't need to go to the bathroom anymore, as the slime will digest whatever she consumes. Excited by this prospect, Nema believes she can eat as much as she desires without gaining weight. With this newfound understanding, Nema decides to offer the slime a place within her body, despite warning it of the challenges she faces in life. Unperturbed, the slime, now named Shizuku, accepts. Nema successfully tames the slime. Afterwards, the slime safely enters Nema's body without causing any harm. Ralph checks on her well-being, and Nema assures him that she's okay, though she can sense Shizuku's consciousness within her. The Brute Prince then inquires about the other slime, noting that it will soon become a parent slime. Nema decides to tame her as well, naming her Haku, and resolves to take her along to find a safe place where she can safely reproduce. Just then, the kobold cub approaches Nema, wondering if she had forgotten about him. Nema reassures him that she hadn't forgotten, but was helping someone else. With determination, they set off once more into the forest, intent on finding the kobold cub's mother no matter what. Along the way, they use their magic to try to locate the energy of the kobolds, but surprisingly, they find nothing. Seeking assistance, they ask Lars for help, but he explains that despite being a holy beast, he is unable to detect a magical aura hidden within the forest. Nema thinks there must be someone in the forest with enough power to hide from humans and even holy beasts like Lars. She asks Lars for help, and he agrees, releasing some of his energy into the forest. The Brute Prince asks if Nema has found a way to locate the kobolds. She explains that she believes there's something in the forest beyond humans, spirits, or monsters, something beyond their imagination that could help them find the kobolds' location. She recalls the Brute Prince mentioning this mysterious entity when he read her a book at the palace. She suggests that they haven't found the kobolds because this entity doesn't want them to. As they approach a tree where many animals are gathered, Nema believes they've found the place they were searching for. Suddenly, she recalls the Brute Prince's words about rare creatures evolving into guardians with special powers to protect their territory. Understanding this, Nema believes that the tree they've found is the Guardian Tree, a unique being neither magical, living, nor spiritual. She introduces herself to the Forest Guardian and apologizes for any trouble they've caused. The Guardian responds, expressing surprise at her royal status, accompanied by a holy beast and monsters. Curious about her identity, the Guardian seeks information. However, Nema hesitates, knowing she can't reveal her true identity as a reincarnated being. The Guardian then inquires about her purpose. Nema explains they seek the kobold's hideout to reunite the cub with its mother and leave promptly afterward. Unfortunately, the Guardian informs her that he can't disclose their location. He sympathizes with the kobolds, who fled into the woods to escape relentless pursuit by humans. As an act of pity, he concealed their whereabouts from further harm. Nema acknowledges the wrongs committed by humans, but emphasizes her goal of reuniting the cub with its mother and finding a peaceful resolution with the kobolds. She shares their plan to relocate the kobolds to avoid conflict, as adventurers are dispatched to eradicate them. Nema expresses her determination to aid the kobolds at any cost. Understanding her intentions, the Guardian agrees to assist but cautions against deceit, warning of dire consequences if she betrays his trust. He offers his help, underscoring the gravity of her commitment and the importance of honesty in their dealings. Upon hearing Nema's willingness to make a solemn promise, the Guardian trusts her without the need for an oath. Pleased with his decision, he clears a path for them and invites Nema to visit him once her task is complete, to which she gladly agrees. With this matter resolved, Nema shifts her focus to providing food for the kobolds and inquires about their dietary preferences. However, before anyone can respond, a sense of foreboding grips the monsters and beasts. Without warning, a hostile bug lunges at Nema, but Nox intervenes swiftly, dispatching it with a forceful kick. Lars swiftly disposes of the bug, reducing it to pieces. Recognizing the insect, Shinky identifies it as a mamashi, known for its delicious taste when roasted. Despite initial hesitation, the group decides to try it, discovering its delectable flavor, which even impresses Nema. Inspired by this discovery, Nema devises a plan and urges the knights and Lars to hunt down mamashi, intending to present them as a gift to the kobolds. As they venture forth and collect the insects, they encounter a shadowy area where kobolds launch an attack. Nema assures them they come in peace under the forest guardian's blessing, and offers the mamashi as a gesture of goodwill. Impressed by her sincerity, the kobolds agree to lead them. Afterward, they stumble upon an area bustling with kobolds engaged in their usual daily routines. Observing the scene, Nema is struck by the idyllic atmosphere, likening it to a paradise of fluffiness. Suddenly, one of the kobolds approaches her, questioning the presence of humans in their territory. Nema explains that they've come to reunite a lost cub with its mother. Confirming the cub's identity, the female kobold expresses concern about the cub being outside the forest. The cub admits that he was left alone by the other cubs, prompting anger from the female kobolds who wish to reprimand them. However, Nema intervenes, offering the kobolds the food they brought as a gesture of goodwill. In her thoughts, Nema strategizes that once the kobolds trust them after enjoying the food, she will initiate negotiations with them. We then see Nema, who has offered food to other kobolds. Hunting is hard for kobolds, so having a tasty monster to eat is a big deal for them. They're enjoying it a lot. Then, the kobold leader, Cicely, tells Nema to go back home. Nema tries to distract her with the food, but Cicely isn't interested. She's tired of humans who have killed many of their kind. She's become their leader, but she doesn't want to hurt humans. Nema tells her that a squad is coming, and they're coming to kill them. Nema learns that Cicely can read the stars, and they are telling her to stay there. Nema wants to help them and suggests a plan called Project Shiana where humans and monsters can live together peacefully. But Cicely rejects it. She says that she don't trust humans. She asks Nema to leave to avoid trouble. Ralph also wants her to go home as it's getting late. Nema decides to leave, promising to come back tomorrow. As Nema leaves, Cicely gazes at the stars, feeling a sense of hope. The stars suggest that a savior has come to protect them. But she can't understand how can a 5-year-old girl save them. When Prince and Ralph got home, they both got letters explaining their duties. Ralph learned about Karna's arrival, worrying Nema because all her siblings will be together, hinting at something important happening. The prince's letter asked him to check on the knights and gave him authority to capture them if anything strange occurs. This is the first time the prince has received such a command, surprising Nema, who thinks it will help end corruption. The prince notices her smile and asks why she's happy. Nema assures him she's happy because he'll stay by her side. This makes the prince blush and think about his tasks. Before, Nema was worried about Hirlin, who hasn't returned. But Prince used spirit magic to see he's hiding from someone, though he doesn't need help, easing Nema's worry. With everything settled, Nema decides to move forward with her plan for the kobolds. She returns to their place and brings food to get their attention. A little kobold approaches her, not because he missed her, but because he's happy for the food. Cicely notices Nema's arrival as promised and is impressed. She sees the spider and parent slime with Nema, monsters living with her without any issues, which surprises Cicely. Seeing this, she starts to believe in Nema and her Shiana project, trusting that it could work. Nema assures Cicely that she won't betray them and takes on the responsibility of protecting them. Cicely, overwhelmed with emotion, starts crying bitterly as she recalls the loss in her bloodline, leaving only her and her sister alive, whom she loves dearly. To comfort Cicely, Nema offers her Haku, which brings her peace. Nema shares her plan to relocate the monsters where they can live peacefully without any trouble. She expresses her life purpose of creating harmony between humans and monsters, impressing Cicely, who is now ready to listen to Nema and follow her advice. Cicely moves on to gather the leaders, and Nema feels glad that she has succeeded in her mission. Nema is excited to learn about the bloodlines and their tasks as she arrives. She notices Hanley, who captures her heart with his fluffiness. Despite her excitement, she introduces herself as the leader of the Goblins and Shinky clan. Hanley is surprised that such a young girl could be a leader, but he has no choice but to believe her. Hanley reveals his name and bloodline, which is from the healing department, and explains that kobolds are divided into 2 groups, hunters responsible for fighting enemy, and those focused on daily life tasks. While they usually live separately, they cooperate when living harmoniously. Nema is also curious about kobolds who can't walk on 2 feet like others. She learns that it's because their muscles aren't strong yet, as they are not yet adults. Understanding this, she expresses her desire to touch Hanley's fluffiness. Removing her glove, she touches the fluffy fur, feeling transported to another world. Ralph and Prince Brute notice what Nema is doing and become excited. They also touch Hanley, feeling just as happy as Nema. Nema even suggests they feel his fluffy fur to perform magic, but Hanley refuses, afraid of their ideas. Before they can continue, Cicely arrives and redirects their attention to the leader. Once the leaders hear Cicely's plan, they agree to it. They see it as a way to live peacefully and protect their bloodline. The issue remains finding a new place to live, but for now, they can stay here until Nema finds a suitable location. They are aware that the extermination squad is coming to eliminate them, but they prefer to face them rather than flee. Nema plans to move to the south, where they can discuss with the extermination squad. She knows the kobolds can do this quickly, but it's risky. Suddenly, a young girl with cat-like features warns everyone not to trust Nema, claiming she'll only lead them to trouble. Cicely scolds her for meddling in adult matters and reveals that she's her little sister. Nemo is puzzled by this, as the girl doesn't look like a kobold, but Prince Brute explains she's from a Star Wolf tribe. Not that it matters to Nema. Nema is simply enchanted by the girl's adorable ears and tail. The girl then expresses her belief that humans are greedy and cruel, causing their suffering. Nema acknowledges that some humans can be cruel, but she's there to help. She asks the girl if she has any ideas to save their pack, but the girl feels left out of important discussions because she's just a kid. Cicely tries to silence her, but Nema insists she speak her mind. The girl tearfully admits she wants to fight humans to protect her tribe. Nema invites her to join their squad, assuring her safety and her sister's peace of mind. As the girl considers the offer, Nema can't resist petting her head, eager to get closer and eventually touch her tail and ears. Upon hearing this, Cicely instructs the Beast Girl to stand by Nema's side and protect her from any danger. She emphasizes that Nema is their last hope, and the Beast Girl eagerly agrees. Nema insists she doesn't need a savior because she has her brother Ralph and Prince Brute to defend her. However, Cicely explains how the stars foretold that Nema would be their savior, and she's determined to keep her safe at all costs. Cicely acknowledges that without Nema, they wouldn't be having this conversation. Meanwhile, as the kobolds converse among themselves, Nema asks Ralph to infiltrate the extermination squad. When questioned about her reasoning, Nema explains that Ralph's healing magic could prevent unnecessary casualties, and the knights to their roles, cautioning them to be careful as she doesn't want them to get into any trouble. Something fishy about DeWitt's disguise. Before parting ways,